Being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
These are nice chairs. You have grown Salesforce from being a radical idea that you hatched in an apartment in San Francisco into today's giant. You also were an outspoken / activist CEO before it became trendy. I want to talk about both of those things, but first, take us back to the original idea for Salesforce. Why was it so radical?
Well, I think that number one, at the time, we tried to do three things at once. Radically different computing model. Today it's cloud. That's what everyone is doing. Two, a new software model in terms of licensing business model, subscription. And then three, and I think this is what has really, probably our best decision was we took 1% of our equity, 1% of our profit, 1% of our time. The day that we started our company was very easy because we had no equity, we had no employees, we had no product, profit, nothing. And we put it into a foundation structure. And of course, that has blossomed into something far more exciting than we could have imagined, where we run more than 30,000 nonprofits and NGOs for free. We've given away more than $150 million in grants. We've done more than 3 million hours of volunteerism. And that has been really provided the foundation for our culture. And that I think, as I said, is probably the best decision we made.
Do you think that companies do business with Salesforce knowing that, in a sense that you're different from other tech companies?
Well, I think a lot of companies look to us and the first question they ask us is, do they trust us? In today's world, especially in the tech world, I think that's the first question that everybody asks. We're in a crisis of trust. You can see that. Yesterday, Wired Magazine published a cover story with Mark Zuckerberg on the cover with a Band-Aid, on his face,
kind of indicated. Up, yeah.
And that was their point. But that's not the only crisis of trust that we're going through. We've gone through a lot of crisis of trust in our industry with major marquee customers and CEOs losing their jobs because the shareholders or customers didn't trust them anymore. So the first and most important and highest value at Salesforce is trust. And it's something that I speak to our employees about all the time, that there's nothing more important than the trust that we have with our customers.
We're here talking about leading in the age of AI. How do you think AI is affecting Silicon Valley's tech companies? Is the algorithm enough? Is it kind of not going to be really enough to guide them?
Well, technology is never good or bad. It's what we do with technology. It's exactly what, she just gave a fantastic presentation, and I think the way that she ended it is really critical, which is that we have to be involved. And I think when we abstract ourselves, that's when we get into trouble. You can see that with Facebook, actually, where the way they do the promoting and sorting and focusing of stories, they had a team of 100 curators that they removed and put an algorithm in its place. And then that kind of started the downward slide that they're in today in regards to trust. And we cannot rely just on the technology. We have to be involved, and it's going to be through a strong hand and through strong CEOs and, of course, other executives and key stakeholders in these organizations to help guide this technology as it moves forward. We're moving into uncharted waters with the technology. You heard that in all the presentations this morning, that we're seeing radically new levels of capability. Even in our own world with Salesforce Einstein, which is our manifestation of machine intelligence, machine learning, deep learning across our entire platform, whether it's sales, service, marketing, communities, our e-commerce platform. We're doing 1 billion Einstein predictions a day already. So it's having a dramatic impact on our customers' ability to be more successful.
So let's go back to Facebook for a second. You raised some hackles at Davos by coming out, probably a bit rare for a tech CEO, in favor of greater regulation.
Well, I think I'm trying to protect our industry. That companies aren't able to regulate themselves. They should have external regulation. And I think
Do you think we're at that point?
We're, I think, getting very close to that point. I think that we have crossed several different lines, and different companies have crossed several different lines, where it's like, wow, why are you not in touch with that issue? Why is it that somebody external to the organization has to surface that back to you, and then you don't act on it or you deny it. I think that's a very serious situation, and companies today have to take these issues seriously. Otherwise, exactly what you've heard this morning is going to happen, which is the technology is going to go in a direction that we don't want it to go. That is why we have to be involved.
What does greater regulation look like? And are you concerned primarily, interference? There's more reports this morning about possible Russian interference in the midterm elections, impact on kids.
Well, let's start with kids. I think that, we have a special place in our government for protecting children. So when we create technology or AI or these different kinds of capabilities, and we're outreaching to kids to sign up and become part of these products and capabilities, and we have no oversight, or there doesn't seem to be strong hand of ethics in these organizations, then the government definitely has to get involved. You saw that with the cigarette industry. I don't think it's any different. If the cigarette, I don't know if you remember, but when I was a kid, there were these bubblegum cigarettes.
Those candy cigarettes.
You remember those?
Oh, yes.
And then we blew out, does everybody remember those? And you blew out the powdered sugar, and it had the logo of the cigarette company on the package. Remember that? Well, what do you think they were trying to get us to do? It was not morons. So this is the same thing, where they're building products for kids that then segue into their other products, and they're focused on the addictive nature of these user interfaces. They're focused on, just basically maximizing their advertising revenue. At some point, we have to say, okay, hold on. What is our industry all about? Is technology going to help our society become better? Is that what we're about? Improving the world, improving the state of the world? Because if it is, then let's see those values emerge out of those companies. Otherwise, then let's regulate them and say, no, you just can't do whatever you want.
Do you think, are you talking to anybody in the administration about this? Like, what does regulation look like? Does it mean no products aimed directly at kids?
Well, I'm not an expert on regulation, you know that. But you can imagine that there are a number of conversations going on, not created necessarily by me, but there's a broad understanding of what's going on, and I think that, and what I hope, is that our government and other governments, including the EU, look at this seriously, and they're the experts in regulation.
Is there we mentioned Facebook, you were on a panel with the Uber CEO, are there any, when you look at various companies that you're concerned about and their impact? Apple obviously has had some investor pressure on this front.
Well, I think one of the most exciting things that happened this week is you saw Unilever and Keith Weed, who's the chief marketing officer, say that they're not going to advertise on platforms that are divisive or that are not ethically grounded. That's a big statement from one of the world's most significant advertisers, and they tend to be the leader, not the fast follower, and I think that you're going to see the beginning of a movement. I don't think it's so different than what you saw with Uber, a year ago, where kind of the delete Uber app phenomenon started to happen, right? There was this kind of when these crises of trust hit, it's like a tidal wave. And from the point where Susan Fowler wrote a narrative saying, hey, the Uber culture is toxic, to the point where there's videos, there's, other testimonial, and then all of a sudden there's why are we all supporting this company? Right. Why are we all on this bandwagon? We could choose something else. That's why Lyft now has 40% of that market in this area. They handed it to them, right? And because they did not really care. And I think that we are in a world now where if you're a CEO, you better care about not just your shareholders, not just and if you're a CEO and you have super majority control and you're using that as your stick and saying, hey, I'm in charge no matter what, guess what? That's not even going to fly anymore. You saw that. That was true with Uber. So we're in a new world, and you can't just care about just your shareholders. You have to care about all your stakeholders. And that's the shift that we're moving in. All your stakeholders are, yes, your shareholders, but also your customers, your employees, your partners, our public education system. We have heard that this morning. We move into the age of AI. these kids, they better be staying in school because they're going to need a solid education, so that you can get to the point of reskilling eventually. They better have strong, fundamental foundation skills now. Our environment, I think, is also a key stakeholder as well. So as a CEO, I think you have to think about all of these things, not just one of these things.
What changed with the role of a CEO? A couple years ago, you were kind of out there on your own, embracing social issues. Is it social media? Is it the fact that companies know that if they're not doing the right thing, their employees and their customers might get upset? Is it President Trump? I mean, what's...
I really feel it is a strong movement from the employee base, and it is catalyzing this effort. So, I mean, you can see what happened with us in Indiana. Here, we had a situation where Mike Pence, who was the governor of Indiana, now he's the vice president, signed a law that basically offered LGBTQ discrimination. And we're the largest tech employer in Indiana. You don't think about that because you think about you're driving to San Francisco and see Salesforce Tower.
Yeah.
Well, if you're in Indianapolis, you see Salesforce Tower also. We have one there too. And we're like, whoa, hold on, that's not going to fly with us. If you're going to discriminate against our employees, customers, and partners, we're going to exit your state. And that was just enough to let hundreds of other CEOs to say exactly the same thing. And that is really held up by these employees who are the advocates. At some point, I'm responding to them, that they're saying, Marc, what are you going to do about this? The first time I got that call, I was like, it was shocking to me. Now I feel like, oh, this is just my role. I need to be able to respond to what their needs are.
You talk about equal pay. And I know the story of how a couple of employees came to you and complained that women weren't getting paid as much at Salesforce. You committed to
Right. How are things at the New York Times going in that area?
They're going okay.
Okay.
It's a topic of discussion.
Okay, good. All right.
As it should be.
If you need some help, let me know.
I understand you're now $6 million into this. Like you've acquired, a couple years ago, you acquired 15 companies, and you have to keep kind of adjusting salaries?
Well, look, we've now hit trust and equality in 3 of these questions, and here it is again, equality. Not just LGBTQ equality, now we're talking about gender equality. Are we paying men and women the same for equal work? And is it true at the New York Times? Is it true at Salesforce? I can tell you at Salesforce, we pay men and women equally for equal work, and it's audited on a regular basis. And as we buy new companies and make changes to our company, when you buy a company, you buy their pay scale. So all of a sudden, we made one change, $3 million, and leveled everybody out, made sure we're doing the right thing. Then all of a sudden, we bought a dozen companies, and we went, wow, we have the same thing again, and we had to do it all again. So it's going to require continual maintenance, but it's a very significant issue. And most organizations don't pay men and women equally. We see it in Hollywood. You see it in the tech industry. You see it in government, too. I was just with a major government, not the United States government, a different government, and I was speaking to women in the government, and there was no law protecting them in regards to equal pay. So that's, I think, going to be a major issue. And I think, again, for our employees, especially our female employees, they want to know that I'm there for them, and that they've got a problem that I'm going to say, okay, hold on. Let's make sure that everybody's taken care of.
Well, I must say the Times is very committed to this as well. Something you did recently that was interesting is that I understand you banned kegs from Salesforce offices. Drinking is a big part of the culture here. Or at least part of the culture with...
At the New York Times?
No, not at the time. Tech companies is kind of the, it's kind of the image of the keg at the office and people working all the time and playing hard, working hard.
I've never really been a huge fan of alcohol in the office. I view alcohol as a drug, and for certain employees, they are not able to tolerate alcohol, or they're not able to control themselves having it in the environment or right near their desk, and I'm not in favor of that in the work environment. And honestly, this is a very similar issue to the gender equality issue, because we had cleansed this and had removed it, and then I was walking through a company we acquired in Atlanta, and there was a keg next to, a vending machine, and I'm like, this is just not our culture. We have a culture that is built on certain values and certain principles. Now, issue is when you're acquiring companies, you also acquire not just their pay scale. Like I mentioned, you also acquire their culture, and so it can take some time to kind of normalize that.
So
and that's very much what I found. What's that?
The keg isn't there anymore?
The keg is not there. Well, actually, it may be. Who knows? But I hope it's not. I took a photo of the keg. I put it on our social network internally, and I said, this is not who we are.
So we've talked about the companies you've acquired. There's a company you didn't acquire, LinkedIn. And I understand you really wanted it. Can you talk about, we know Salesforce mostly as an enterprise company. Are you going to make a play in the consumer space?
Well, I think when you look at our consumer play, it's really our customers. Like, for example, if you go to Adidas, which is a huge consumer company, and you go to adidas.com and you want some, spiffy new Yeezy 350s, if you can get them, if you go to Adidas, that's us. We are their commerce platform. We are helping them manage their personnel in their stores. We're helping them provide their customer service. We're helping them provide their one-on-one marketing. We're helping them build their single view of the customer. That's actually what we do in our business. So we're helping Adidas build that. So that's really our consumer play. So when we look at acquisitions, whatever acquisition it is, it's like, are we able to help our customers augment and extend their single view of the customer? And you can also see our work with other key companies like, well, a great example is the people who made this suit for me, Louis Vuitton. So Louis Vuitton, if you will go into a Louis Vuitton store in San Francisco, you'll see that the sales rep is carrying a phone with them. If you ask them to look at the phone, you'll see it's an app called Icon. That app is Salesforce, and it's connected back to your single, your customer record. And that's true if you're on their site or, it's part of LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, and it's a whole collection of brands, including Berluti and Louis Vuitton and Loro Piana and on. Of course, they're trying to build a single view of the customer so they can help you make the next best offer for their products. And that's very much our role, is to help them do that. And when it comes to AI, for example, like I mentioned earlier, that's what Einstein is doing. Einstein is helping customers do that. Even customers who have turned on Einstein on our commerce platform now are seeing a 15% increase in their revenue, because their end user customers, their consumers, they're just getting better recommendations.
Time is going very fast here. Before we break for questions, I have to ask you one last thing. So Salesforce is going to be atop the largest building in San Francisco. Are you worried at all? History is full of people who have, built the tallest buildings, and it doesn't turn out so well. Are you worried about?
Well, we didn't build it.
I understand that, but,
and
but it's a very high-profile position.
I actually didn't want to buy. I actually didn't want to lease it. What happened is it's actually a good story, which is that, Salesforce in 2010 was trying to figure out where are we going to put. We have 10,000 people just in San Francisco. We have 30,000 worldwide. That's just now. And you know that we're scaling very quickly. We gave guidance we'll do $12.5 billion in revenue this fiscal year. So we kind of offered our employees an alternative. Would you like us to build this kind of skyscraper, or would you like us to build this campus? And they pivoted. It was kind of split 50-50, and then they were focused on building this campus, but we outgrew it before we could even break ground, and we sold that piece of land to the Warriors, and that's where the new Warriors Stadium is going. And then what happened was we bought a building, an office building, next to where that tower is. The tower actually got sold to another company, Boston Properties, and the tower, which when they originally pitched it to us, was 20 stories higher than it is now. So if you've seen it in San Francisco, it was 20 stories higher, and it was kind of a cylinder. Yeah. And I just could never see that. And then they kind of scaled it down. They kind of reshaped it. Okay. And so then we have the bottom half of the building and the top 2 floors. We also have we have built a new office building next to it, 350 Mission. We have another office building that we own next to that, 50 Fremont, and those 3 buildings are our kind of quote-unquote campus. And then we're building with the city a huge park that goes down 6 blocks over the transit center that has a funicular that comes up from our campus onto that, which is a public park for the whole city to enjoy. And that's really now our, campus just in San Francisco. Of course, we also have, as I mentioned, we have Salesforce Tower in Indianapolis. In New York, we just took the MetLife building at Battery Park. We took Heron Tower, is now Salesforce Tower in London. And we also have, some incredible new projects around the world. But that's, it's where we're going to put all these people. So that's where they're going.
You seem to be signaling that there could be more acquisitions in the future. Salesforce is going to be getting bigger.
Well, we've done more than, I think, we've done 55 acquisitions. And if there's something where it will help us augment and extend that single view of the customer and bring it into a modern age, make it mobile, make it AI, we're going to look at those technologies. We've found some great companies and great executives, great talent to do that. In fact, a lot of our artificial intelligence capability came through incredible acquisitions, including Richard Socher, who worked with our last presenter at Stanford, who's a significant researcher in deep learning.
Questions for Marc? Any out there? I think my friend Orrin Michaels.
Hey, Marc. How are you? Good to see you. Thank you. You mentioned trust, and do they trust you? The data that you're sitting on, we learned this morning that quantity of data is the biggest factor in success of AI. You sit on data across a lot of companies, across a lot of competitors who are not by nature likely to share with each other, but doing so is probably the only shot they have at competing with the folks that have massive amounts of data. How can you use your trust that people have given you to get these companies to, in a sense, save themselves by cooperating with their competitors?
Well, number one is it's not our data. So our relationship with our customers, it's their data. And the data is black to us. We cannot see the data. Even for our AI, this was a huge breakthrough we had technically, which is our AI system is working on the data and can make its prediction and capability and use its deep learning algorithm or machine intelligence. But Salesforce itself and our engineers, we can never actually see the data. So it actually is a very significant challenge for us. Unlike other normalized data sets for other companies that we've been talking about, it's their data. When you sign on to their company, you're giving them all your data. It's not our data. We don't see the data. The data is black to us. We will never access the customer's data. So,
advantage or disadvantage?
Both. It's an advantage because it's a clear message to our customers of, we 100% respect you, and we want to make sure you have your data, and we're going to do our best to safeguard your data and help you protect and secure that data and make it more agile that you can work on it and have intelligence capability. It's a disadvantage because in the world of artificial intelligence, you want to be able to see all the data to be able to normalize it and be able to figure out exactly how you want to chop it up in the way so that the algorithms can then give you the best predictions. So that has been a huge part of our research to be able to kind of break through in that area.
Any additional questions? Right here in the front.
Can you see ways to make the AI work well inside your 111 program?
And maybe you could explain what that is.
Well, I think that, the 111 program and Google has, you're at Google now, aren't you? You are, yeah, you were a journalist. So, the 111 program, which Google also has adopted, so thank you for that, is, I think, a really important foundation for companies to move forward. More than 3,000 companies have now adopted the 111 model, and we're rapidly approaching 4,000 companies. And I hope that it provides a foundation for culture, that 1% of their equity, 1% of their profit, 1% of all of their employees' time is kind of about giving to others. But it's really about this. You're sitting next to one of our former executives. On the first day of work at Salesforce, we take those executives and we go do something for somebody else. They go to a public school, they go to a public hospital, they go to a homeless shelter. The message is Salesforce and our culture is, yes, we're about helping our customers connect with their customers in a new way, but we're also going to make sure that we're going to build a company that's all about helping others and making sure that we improve the state of the world. That's equally important to us.
Well, Marc, we're unfortunately out of time. Thank you so much for
Thanks
a very
for having me. I
provocative
really
discussion.
appreciate it. Well
It's been
done.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.